Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, and welcome back to Soul Archaeology. Wow, how was last week for you? That was such a deep, potent week. The last 2 weeks really have been just so potent and mineral rich and nutrient dense, and just really getting to see beneath the surface what's held within our subconscious. All of the scorpionic energy, the new moon in Scorpio, the solar flares, the Mercury retrograde, conjunct Mars the week before that. We've just had so many of our inner planets interacting in this deep subconscious space. And that's really helpful because we are in this space where we're in the in-between. We're working through so many different layers to really step into this next chapter. 2026 is fast, it's new, it's fresh, it's air and fire, it's Aries energy, it's initiation, creation. There's a light, an ignition that's getting activated in February. And so really the process up until that point is to sort of sort through, to take inventory of, to process through what's still held, what are we holding on to from the past, what we're still moving through, what really needs our attention so that we don't carry it into the next chapter. So this is a deep, potent space. We're headed into the holiday season here in the US with Thanksgiving this week. And it's just generally a time when a lot can get kicked up. Holidays and anniversaries are imprints within our subconscious, and they imprint memories from the past. And so holidays, anniversaries can activate memories. They can activate deep feelings. And it's really a time when a lot can get activated. Material surfaces because it's held within our subconscious. It's there to remind us of the past times where we experience certain things on holidays, on anniversaries. I remember last year on the anniversary of Arlo's death, I was shocked by how activating it was. You know, I'd been obviously in that grief portal and processing through it and moving through it, and just realizing that the day of the anniversary of his death was incredibly activating, and it felt like it had just happened. And so just keep that in mind when you're moving through the holidays. It can bring up old past material. It can bring up things that occurred on Thanksgivings before, or Christmases before, or whatever holidays you celebrate. The holiday season in general is a time when we gather and we connect, and that can also activate this void of belonging if you're feeling detached from your family of origin or friends or family. And so it is a space of a lot of opportunity to sense and feel into what is there, what's still wanting or needing your attention. And also, it can be activating, but it can also be a beautiful time of repair, especially if you're in a different place this year, especially if you've done a lot of work and you feel more resourced, more centered within yourself, more connected to yourself and therefore others. And we can repair these memories. We know that neuroplasticity exists. We know that the brain can be rewired. The subconscious can be rewired. We know that we can repair memories so that they don't activate as much as they would have before. And as we enter Sagittarius season, we begin to emerge from some of this underworld material, especially this week because we have both Mercury and Saturn stationing direct at the end of this week. But before that happens, we definitely have a big week. We have a lot of activity in the sky. We have a lot of dynamic transits. So we have some squares, some sextiles, we have some conjunctions. We have, as I mentioned, Saturn and Mercury stationing direct at the end of the week as well. But I wanted to mention before we jump into the energy of this week is that I have my 2026 astrology forecast workshop open. The doors are open. I do this workshop every year. It's so fun. I love connecting with you guys in this way. This is a way that we can connect live. It's on Zoom. It's a group call. These workshops aren't just sort of a lecture. They're really interactive. And so we do a full 2026 astrology forecast breakdown. Then we go into what those transits could mean for you. We're looking at the chart. We are looking at all the significant dates, the general theme of 2026. And then we move into a really potent quantum healing journey. And so this is not just educational, this is also deeply healing as well. So I love to do it in this format because it really activates the wisdom of 2026 so we can feel as we move into this new year, which is personally, I believe, one of the biggest years of our lifetime. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it actually is going to change everything. I think 2020 really activated this cataclysmic event, this dissolving of the way things were, old structures, old timelines, old systems. And we're actually going to start rebuilding in 2026. We've just been in this dissolution phase. We've seen a lot, of course, new come in, but 2026 is the year that moves into 2027 and all the way through 2032, which creates this entire rebuilding process of a new world. And it's really essential that we are super clear around what we truly desire, what we're calling in, what we feel aligned with, but also how we can work with this energy. It's so potent. And so I have my cohort that's beginning next year. It's going to begin in March of 2026. This workshop will really give you a clear understanding of 2026, how to work with it, the energies, the timelines, when to launch things, when to basically plan your year ahead. And so, especially if you're an entrepreneur, I believe that doing a 12-month plan is so essential, not even just for logistics, but also somatically. So you can have a clear understanding of what is wanting to move through you. This can change, of course, but to have a layout, that masculine energy in your business, in your nervous system is incredibly supportive and helpful. So what I'm doing this year in this workshop, which is a little bit different, is I'm also including a workbook. And so this workbook is going to have a lot of really, really helpful information. It's something you can reference all year. You can look at the transits, you can look at the full moons, the retrogrades, all the energies that will be present in 2026. So this is going to be one of the most transformative years of our lives. We're moving into a 1 year. Also, if you can't make the live event, no worries. I'm going to record it and send out the link to the recording right after the live event. So you can re-listen to it, watch it multiple times. I have a lot of people who reach out and said, oh, I love having the recording of the 2025 workshop because I've gone back and referenced it throughout the year, different timelines, and when trying to figure out what the next, 6 months looks like. So you'll have the recording, you'll have a PDF workbook, and the quantum healing journey that we do together. And I also have a lot of people who said that they go back and listen to that all the time and use it as a personal journey that they utilize in their healing process. So super excited for that. It will be on December 14th. It's on a Sunday morning. And like I said, if you can't make it live, no worries, but I would love to see you all there. I feel like there's such a beautiful community here, and we don't necessarily get to connect. So having this connection point is so fun. So the link for that is in the show notes, and I'm so grateful you're here. This week is going to feel like a slow ignition. We're moving from the dense, subterranean, scorpionic work over the past month. That new moon in Scorpio, which was so potent. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, I highly recommend that you do. It will explain why you feel the way you do right now. But this week isn't necessarily a clean leap. We're in a transition week. It's a liminal threshold where the underworld meets this fire of Sagittarius, this forward momentum. We have, at the end of the week, Saturn stationing direct, closing a chapter. Saturn moved and transitioned back into Pisces. It will be there until February, but it's moving forward. So we're going to start really clearing some of these illusions that are connected to Saturn in Pisces. On November 23rd, the Sun in Sagittarius is sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. On November 24th, Mars in Sagittarius squares the lunar nodes. That same day, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio conjoins with Venus in Scorpio. On the 26th, Venus in Scorpio forms a grand trine with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer and Saturn retrograde in Pisces. And we're actually just going to add Neptune to the mix as well, even though it's a little bit further out, but it's definitely influencing this grand trine. On November 27th, we have Saturn stationing direct in Pisces. On the 29th, Mercury stations direct in Scorpio, and Venus in Scorpio opposes Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So there's a lot happening this week. It might not feel as deep and potent as last week or the week before, but there's definitely a lot of action. There's a lot happening. There's a lot shifting and moving and activating within our systems. This is a week where the internal work really starts to shift into external action and choices. So on November 24th, we have Mars in Sagittarius square the lunar nodes. And so Mars in Sagittarius is a bit of a pressure. I think I've been talking to a lot of people who are saying that they just feel this pressure to act, to change, to speak, to do something, right? That's Mars in a fire sign. And so when it's activating and squaring the lunar nodes, our destiny is activated, our fate is activated. This drive, will, evolutionary pressure to do something, to change something, to shed something, to grow into something is heightened. A square is a pressure aspect. So they're putting pressure on each other to complete something, to change something, to evolve something. Mars is our drive, our will, action, hits the nodes, the lunar nodes in the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces. It really reveals where our next step is meant to be taken from, not simply toward. So this is kind of confrontational, but in a really productive way. You might start to see where old motivations out of fear, urgency, people-pleasing, survival are no longer aligned with the path you're choosing, this next chapter. When we think about Mars, especially when it's in a square or in this confrontation, we think about intention and we think about where we're acting from. And so Mars in Sagittarius, it is the higher mind, it is philosophy, it's beliefs, it's dogma, it's where we're pulling our actions from. Are we moving from the wound, from this righteous place or this place where we think that we know best? Are we moving from insecurity? Are we moving from fear or pressure? Or are we moving from the higher heart? And this is something I wanted to mention because when we talked 2 episodes ago about the Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars transit, which was so highly activating, I talked a lot about self-righteousness. And instead of having to figure out where you're coming from, I think it's important to feel where you're coming from. Is it urgent? Is it pressurized? Is it this coming from fear or emotion? It's likely coming from a wound. Is it coming from presence, from expansion, from love? It's likely coming from the higher heart. And so we're always manifesting our reality from either a wound or the higher heart, from the past or from the present. And I think so much of what our journey is here is manifesting a reality from our higher heart rather than our wounding as much as possible. We can't get it perfect, right? If we did, we would be Jesus, we would be ascending, we would not be here anymore in human form. But I believe that if we can have conscious awareness around our actions and where they come from, where we're moving from, we can adjust and course correct in present time more often. We can go into the subconscious work. We can begin to rewire so that we just start operating by default from our North Node, our higher self, our higher heart, rather than our wounding, our pain, our self node, our conditioning. So this Mars square, the lunar nodes, we're going to feel evolutionary pressure. I feel it already. It's really started on Friday for me, actually. I was talking with a friend, and we're both like in this place of developing our work and our business. And for me, this feels really connected to money. It feels connected to self-worth and my business. And I have Sag in my second house. So of course it's all in alignment. And I'm just feeling this evolutionary pressure. I'm like ready to break through. I'm ready to move through these old mechanisms. I have my natal south node in Virgo, my north node in Pisces. So I am in my nodal return. I know many of you are as well, and I love connecting with you. If you don't know about your nodes, I highly recommend my Inner Compass course. It walks you through the north and south node placements, your personal north and south node placements, and also those of your family and friends so you can understand them better. And this week, we're going to be working with our nodes. We're going to be working with that energy of fate and destiny and dharma and purpose. So I feel this Mars and Sag putting pressure on my lunar nodes to break out of some of these patterns of perfectionism and rigidity and really worrying about what people think and just these things that are kind of keeping me in these boxes within my work. So we're going to be taking inventory of our motivation. Where are we operating from? What's driving our actions? Then we also have later that day, Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus in Scorpio. This is the deep relational work. We are not getting off the hook this week. This is where the heart meets the subconscious. Like I said before, are we operating from the wound or the higher heart? Where are relationships operating from? Where are we showing up from? This Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is so deep and so karmic and so subterranean, and it's pulling up old material for review. Venus brings this emotional truth. She's been in Scorpio for the last few weeks, and this is deep and potent and powerful. It's revealing not the surface level of our relationships, but that deeper undercurrent, that subterranean material. When we're relating to someone, there's always this subconscious dance that's happening. It's not just the, communication that we're having on the physical plane. It's always this deeper undercurrent of power dynamics. And I do think that right now I've been talking to a lot of people who are very aware of the power dynamics present within their lives, and that is really front and center. And so this is an opportunity to notice, where are you operating from in relationships? Are you operating from the past, from wounding, from fear, from manipulation and control and these unhealthy power dynamics? Are you operating from a space of scarcity or anxious attachment? This is a portal of vulnerability, a deep dive into the root of how you communicate your needs, how you interact with intimacy, how you navigate vulnerability. We need to be really aware of our relational patterns because it's so reflective of just how we move through the world in general. And it's reflective of our relationship to self, which impacts everything we do, everything we create, everything we manifest in this world. So this could bring up, like I said, old relational patterns, breakthroughs around conversations, emotional honesty, truth-telling, things that we need to say or speak or even just admit to ourselves. 2 days later, Venus forms a trine with Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces. There's a grand trine in water again. We've been in grand trines in water for well over a month now. This is going to be a theme for the end of 2025. Because we have Jupiter in Cancer, we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. So we already have this trine happening between those three planets. And then anytime we have another planet in water, I should say in Scorpio, we're going to have this activation. So this is supportive energy. Trans are supportive. They're supporting our emotional processing. This is healing, integrating, softening. This grand trine really creates this emotional coherence after so many weeks of intensity. Venus brings connection. It brings truth. It brings vulnerability. It brings this subconscious material forward to be seen, to be witnessed. Jupiter in Cancer brings in this mothering energy around repair and intimacy and closeness and belonging. It really wants connection. It wants intimacy. It wants emotional vulnerability. It helps us find nourishment. It helps us forgive. It helps us soften. And then Saturn brings boundaries and sobriety, maturation. It allows us to see through illusions. So I think with this grand trine, we might get to see where we're living in illusion within our relationships, within our emotional expression, where we need to break through some of these old patterns of escapism or dissociation and really reckon with the reality of the present moment, where we're operating from, where we're moving from, where we're relating from. The next day, on November 27th, Saturn stations direct in Pisces. And this is a timeline shift. Saturn stationed retrograde in Aries on July 13th. It then retrograded back into Pisces. We have this final movement of Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces until February of 2026. Saturn has been dissolving structures that are no longer aligned with integrity, with truth, with reality. We have had Neptune in Pisces since 2011. This isn't the end of an era in February of 2026. And what Saturn has done since 2023 is revealed where we are living in illusion, where we are afraid to face reality, to face truth. In so many ways, I think Neptune in Pisces has been a massive consciousness expansion. We have been spiritually activated, spiritually awakened. Look at how different the world is now. That's not only Neptune and Pisces work, of course. It's like Pluto and Capricorn and many other things, but Neptune in Pisces has been expanding our consciousness. It's also been fogging our reality, making it hard to see what's real, what's true, what's tactile and tangible. What Saturn has been doing since 2023 is sobered us up a little bit. It's saying you need to wake up from the dream. It's time to start. It's time to activate. It's time to mobilize and create that reality that you started manifesting in 2011. Your consciousness is not the same, but we can live within that dream space, waiting for it to materialize, waiting for our reality to expand if we don't have the scaffolding we need to create this reality on the physical plane. And we need Saturn for that. Saturn is lead. It's the earth. It is our ability to really, really materialize and create here. It's reality. It's sobering. It's maturation. And we need that masculine fathering energy to contain us, to say it's time. It's time to start building. It's time to face reality. It's time to sober up. That's what happens in our late 20s. We get a reality check. And so Saturn's going to start pressurizing us a little bit more as we move forward into February. This is when the lessons of the last 5 months, the last 2 years really begin to crystallize. Where do you need stronger practices and boundaries so that you can feel more contained and safe within this physical space to create? Daily rhythms, spiritual practices, self-care practices, maturation, sobering. What are you avoiding? Saturn is going to shove your face in it right now. It is not messing around, and it needs us to sober up so that we can start really taking the reins of our lives. Saturn in Aries, we got a taste of it this year. It's going to be even more heightened and activated next year with Neptune there as well. So this is where we really start taking action. This shift with Saturn is going to feel a bit jerky. We might have sudden realizations or confrontations, or once again, this pressure to really break through or to create, or things that we've been avoiding might just become really crystal clear, or we might be confronted by them this week. This is where we truly face them. And then on the 29th, we have Mercury stationing direct in Scorpio. And this is when Mercury emerges, Saturn emerges from the underworld with all of this unconscious material that we've sorted through and gathered over the last month with Mercury and 6 months with Saturn. So we're going to have some subconscious material surfacing with these two planets stationing retrograde at the end of this week. This is when we get to really own our stuff. This is when we get to say, okay, I'm done with this. I'm complete with this. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to swallow that pill. I'm ready to say, yes, I am owning this. I am taking radical self-responsibility. This is mine, and I can see it, and I can love it, and I can move forward. That same day, on November 29th, Venus opposes Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So this is disruptive. This is probably the most disruptive transit of the week. This is liberating in some way. Uranus in Taurus wants to liberate us. Venus in Scorpio wants to bring us deeper. So this is shaking loose the relational, financial, emotional patterns you're ready to stop looping through. This is something breaking open. This is showing you where you're constrained, compromised, disconnected from your truth, from your authenticity. This is looking to break old intimacy patterns, old control patterns, old manipulative patterns. This week, we start to feel some pressure to move, to decide, to choose, to create, to wake up from this sleepy space of Scorpio season. It might have felt a little slow, a little murky. I know for me personally, I've not felt like creating anything the last month. I've just been giving myself permission to just feel and sort through the subconscious material. If this is you as well, this week you might start to feel some heat to fire pressure to move forward. We still have a lot of other planets retrograde, so it might not be the exact time to take action, but we'll start to feel some clarity, some sobriety, some movement, especially as we start to lean into next year. But this is definitely the time to just notice, to pay attention, to discern what feels good and what doesn't. You don't necessarily have to take action, but start strategizing, start journaling, taking note of what's here, what's available. I will be sending out to my newsletter people a holiday guide. So there are beautiful, amazing companies, small businesses on this list that I love, dear friends. Just, I'm so excited to promote them. If you are looking to support small business this holiday season, which I really encourage you to, I think that small business is a huge part of the infrastructure of the new world, and they really need our support right now. I'll be listing some of my favorites on my holiday newsletter going out this week. The card that I pulled today from the Untamed Elemental deck is the Breath card for all of you, for the Soul Archaeology community. And the Breath card is all about inspiration. It says, breath is the vibratory note between the starting point of life and the still point of death. All activity derives from her flow. Your mother's breath is the first gift she gave you. It was passed down from her mother, and upon both of their respirations, you alighted upon the world. The strength of your connection with your own breath is the extent to which you are connected to your existence, creativity, and power. Breath is prayer and praise. She is all-inspiring. Breath is a sign that inspiration is afoot. The words breath and inspiration are deeply entwined. They are integral to one another. To become inspired is to have an idea breathed into you as an exclamation from the divine. The inspiration you receive is a vision of reality that already exists and is yours to create if you so choose. Breathe into your inspiration and discover if it is right for you to embark upon at this time. When it's balanced, do you feel receptive to divinely sourced potentials? When it's imbalanced, do you lack new ideas, enduring sameness? To bring into balance, practice purification through the control of your breath. And I love this card so much. I think that it also points to this sort of pause that we're in at the moment, this space between the activation and action. And we've been activated, highly activated this year. So maybe this time is a breath in between the activation and the reaction, the action, the response. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your support. Thank you for always just sharing this podcast on social media with friends and family, people who you think would really resonate with it. This podcast has grown strictly through referrals, and word of mouth, which is just the best feeling in the world. I don't do any sponsorship. I am just here on my own doing this podcast with all of you, and I'm just so grateful. So if you could share, it would mean the world to me. I hope to see many of you at the 2026 workshop. I'm so excited. I love connecting with you in real time, in real life, obviously through Zoom, but still about as close to in real life as we can. And I'm excited to see all of you there. So have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will see you next week.